Hello everybody. As you can see, the weather's changed quite a bit. I was hoping it would be snowing out, but the snow has turned into a light rain, so it's kind of sloppy out. But I got my weatherproof boots on, so I don't mind walking around in the snow, and when it's cold out, as I actually enjoy it. But right here is the location of the Hoyt Shoe Company, which also evolved into the McElwain shoe industry, which had multiple factories throughout the city of Manchester. It's now been converted into apartments, and I've actually been in here when this place was converted and it was still fairly fresh, as I had a friend that rented out an apartment here for a couple years. And the apartments are actually very nice. They're actually gorgeous. They have high ceilings with plank floors and plank ceilings, and there's a lot of exposed brick. But during the late 1800s is when I believe this was built, and this place obviously employed a lot of people. I'm not sure if it was affiliated with the building across the street, but it likely was. It's actually a beautiful building, it really is. There's two of them, and they're both semi-identical. And this one still has the actual coal smokestack in the background. I'll walk around so we can get a better view of it. It's now called the Twin Towers, and I believe my buddy, he might have actually lived in that corner unit. It's been a while. It was like the year 2001 when he lived here. But I assure you, these apartments are beautiful on the inside. At least they used to be. I'm sure they still are. But they did a great job restoring these. All the windows are actually original. They kept the original windows on the outside, but they put new panels on the inside, so it kept a nice original look to it, which you don't see too often. Yeah, those are all the original panel glasses, which is pretty impressive. There's usually a marker that has a date on it, but I don't see it on this building. Most of the mill buildings have a granite marker that's etched with a date onto it. Yeah, I was sitting at home. I still have like lingering effects of COVID, and I'm just sick of sitting around, so I decided to just go out and go for a walk. I wanted to come out at like 6 this morning, but I didn't have the motivation for some reason. Because this morning it was actually snowing out and everything was white and beautiful. Where now everything's kind of slushy and gross looking. Gorgeous building though, it really is. I'm not sure if this one was affiliated with it, but it likely was. And we'll walk into here. Hopefully I don't get harassed for trespassing, but I don't really care. What are they going to do? Tell me to leave. Yeah, so if you would have been here, you know, about 100 years ago or so, this would have been a dirt parking lot, obviously. And there would have been hundreds of people working here instead of living here. But as you can see, the original smokestack is still here, which I'm very impressed that they did not tear that down. As I've stated in a previous video, where the other remaining smokestack in the city is that it costs a lot to repoint these every once in a while, as they're fairly high. So obviously it costs a lot of money to maintain something like that. Yeah, we'll go right up to it, so you can get a better perspective of the height. As crazy as it sounds, I would climb this. I'm like fearless about heights. If I had a ladder, of course. Pretty neat. And this is where they would feed the coal from inside the building. You can see where it was cut out at one point. Because it's obviously not in use anymore. And that's either where they would take the ash out, or that would be used as a vent. But anyway, I thought I'd show you this old beautiful building. I'm going to walk around to a few areas. I'm probably going to be walking around for a couple hours here today. Everywhere I look, I see something that I want to walk towards, but I only have so much time. And there's plenty of other times that I can make more videos, of course. Yeah, this is one of the cooler mill buildings in the city for sure. Just the way it's laid out, it's absolutely beautiful. It really is. Like, if you've never been to Manchester and actually walked around, it's kind of hard to appreciate it looking through a video, but it's really neat. Although the people that have lived here, or the people that have just moved here, a lot of people don't really appreciate this stuff in the same manner that I do. Because obviously I work on houses and I know the type of work that was involved to build a place like this. Like even up there where you see the, I don't know what you call it, there's a tower there. You can't really see it, but even the top of that, look at the detail work that's on it. Nobody builds stuff like that nowadays. Everything's garbage. It really is. But anyway, I'm gonna head over to my next destination. I wasn't planning on filming this building, I was just walking by it, but this building shows a lot of age, as it is 100% original. I'm not sure what was originally here, but right now it seems like it's a muffler shop, if that's even still functioning. Yeah, it is. And I thought I'd just film it. It's just a matter of time until it gets destroyed or revamped, so I like to film things, as you all know. But anyway, I thought I'd just film that, and that is near Salona's Bar and Grill, or pizza joint, whatever you call it. But anyway, on to my next destination. And here's the location of what was once called the Cohas Shoe Factory. Can you believe it? Another shoe factory in Manchester. But it was very recently renovated into apartments and also small businesses that are allowed to open up on the first floor. I believe there's a lot of art studios and whatnot. But they did an excellent job renovating this place. They really did. So this was once a shoe factory quite some time ago. And I recall as a kid there was actually a gigantic smokestack here also. I don't remember when it got torn down, but there was a giant coal stack here. As all these mills had a coal stack because that's how they got power back then. But they did manage to keep some of the original fire escapes, as you can see here. And all the windows that got replaced by beautiful windows. Those things were not cheap. Each one of those windows is probably like $2,000 a piece. So I do the math, it adds up really quick. They did an excellent job bringing this place back to life. Again, it was a fairly large mill and it did employ a lot of people. I wish this country still had all these jobs because we'd all be doing very well right now. We really would. There could be people working here making shoes for, you know, $20, $30 an hour versus working at gas stations or Walmart. Granted, things would cost more, but when everybody's getting paid more, it doesn't matter. It's called a stable and strong economy. These apartments, I guarantee you, are not that cheap. They're probably close to $2,000 or $2,500 a month. I'm going to try to walk around it to the backside where the old railroad tracks used to be. I also want to do a video on all the trolleys that used to run around Manchester. There used to be a lot of electric trolleys that people used to use to get around the city. And there's still remnants of some of the tracks here and there. It's just a matter of locating them. It's a lot of walking, but as you can see, I do a lot of walking. I just walk out of my apartment and I just walk around for hours. That's an old building as well. That's actually one of my destinations on the other side of that blue building. I had a phone call, so I had to stop the video real quick. But right here is where the train would run through here, and it would actually stop here. And right here was a loading dock. As you can see, the remnants of the concrete here. And actually, it looks like a smokestack was actually built into this place. So I might have been wrong about the smokestack, but I'm fairly sure that I could visualize a smokestack here when I was younger. Yeah, that octagon-looking corner on this tower actually looks like it was part of a smokestack. It may have been. I don't think it's the one that actually powered the place, because that's really small for all that coal smoke to be traveling through there. But that's kind of neat. So if I were to guess, there actually was a coal stack here. I'll try to get a better picture of it. That's very unique. I've never noticed that, and I've actually walked by here quite a few times. Very cool feature. The old brick masons were definitely crafty, that's for sure. I'm actually going to walk down these old train tracks because this is going to be converted into a rail trail. It's all going to get paved. It's just a matter of time. There used to be a lot of homeless encampments here, and they mowed out all the weeds and whatnot and kicked all the homeless people out. So they're not really allowed down here anymore. And I believe they mowed it about 2 years ago, as they were going to pave this, and COVID delayed everything, so it never came to fruition. But I'm hoping soon they'll be able to do it, as I live, you know, about a half mile or so that way, so I could just jump on these tracks and walk right down the Elm Street or ride a bike, which would be cool. And right here, a lot of people don't know about this, even though you've lived here your whole life. You've driven over this bridge, you know, hundreds of times. But that little, I don't know if I'll zoom into it. I don't want to have to walk all the way down there, but above that overpass is actually Elm Street. So all these people driving over here don't even know that's there. They have no clue. But at one time, the train used to go underneath there, and there's a train station on the other side of that. I actually added this to my last video, but this was the Cody Bread Factory located on Elm Street. I just got a frontal picture last time, but so at one point they used to make bread here, which I stated would still be cool, because you would probably be allowed to go to the front entrance and get your fresh bread here. And I'm sure they supplied a lot of various stores and whatnot. But the building is mostly original, other than the windows. So yeah, this was the Cody Bread Factory, once again. And this here is the front of that blue building that I was just talking about. But this was once called Bouchard's Shell Station, which was a gas station, obviously. I'm not sure if I recall this when I was younger, but I may have. I kind of recall the steel half-round building that I was sitting next to. But anyway, I thought I'd show you that. I'm near the Antiques on Elm Street building. Right here, there's a little bit of history. I've driven by here many times and I've been wanting to film this, but I keep forgetting. But there was a business here many years ago that had a mural that was painted. I'm not sure why it ends abruptly, but likely something was demoed or this wall was rebuilt for some reason. There could have been a fire. But also, there's remnants of a cobblestone road here underneath the pavement that's been exposed. It's kind of covered in slush right now, but you can still see it. But all the roads in Manchester, as well as most of the Northeast up until probably the early 1920s or so, were all cobblestone roads before the invention of pavement. I'm gonna walk this little area here. This is obviously an industrial area at one point. A lot of the buildings have been torn down because they built the arena, as well as that modern ugly apartment building that's getting built at the moment. But I've always liked this area. It's kind of neat looking. I wish all the bricks were still red versus painted, but nothing we can do about that. Unless they want to hire me to strip all the bricks, but that'll never happen. And that's the Valley Street Cemetery up here. I'm probably going to come here towards the end of the video, unless it starts downpouring. But I've always loved this area. It's always been kind of cool looking to me, as I've actually come down here as a kid many times. As there used to be a hobby store right about, I think it was on the street corner. It was torn down, I don't know, a year or two ago, because they demoed. There used to be a line of brick buildings going down this road, and they all got demoed. And I believe it was last summer or the summer before where they demoed, I don't know, there must have been like 4 or 5 buildings here, so they could build this hideous looking monstrosity. But I believe the 606 hobby store was right here, if I recall. And I've been in here multiple times. It was a hobby store that would sell, you know, models, model trains, remote control cars, you know, hobby things. And as an 80s kid, you know, that's what we did. We weren't playing video games and stuff like that. So it was a very popular store that I believe it shut down during the early 90s because people kept breaking into it and stealing things. So the owner ended up shutting it down because he couldn't recoup the money that was lost, as it was just a hobby store. The guy wasn't filthy rich. So because of assholes, that place got shut down. But this building is absolutely hideous. I don't know who the architect or designer was, but they have horrible taste. This place does not look like it belongs in Manchester. Especially with the yellow and the blue and the green. It's so gross looking. I'm sure the apartments inside are going to be beautiful, but I would have much rather kept the old brick buildings here that were very much a part of the history of this city. I don't know what the city is thinking. They tear everything down. If they would have kept like most of the original structures from the 1800s and kept them up, this city would be a tourist destination. It really would. But now it's just a smorgasbord of modern and old buildings, and it just doesn't look right. It really doesn't. And if you've ever visited Concord, Concord's beautiful because they kept as much as the original stuff as possible. Whereas Manchester is just a smorgasbord where everything's mixed up and it just doesn't look right. But anyway, I'm going to head over to my next destination. During the 1960s into the 1970s, there was an urban renewal project that destroyed a lot of the old landmarks in Manchester and replaced them with some modern stuff. But right here at the end of Depot Street, where WMUR News is, there was once a train passenger station called Union Station. And it was probably the most beautiful building in the city. And the idiots who were in charge back in the day had no hindsight, and they destroyed it for absolutely no reason. And what they replaced it with is this building here. And as you recall, this was once Service Merchandise before it was WMUR, and Service Merchandise was kind of like a Sears, just a smaller version. But the Union Street station used to bring passengers to Boston and also Maine. I believe Portland, Maine. And as you can see, it was a beautiful building. It really was, and it's a shame that it's gone, because buildings like that would attract tourism, like I was just saying. If all these buildings would have stayed erect and kept up, this city would be a beautiful city, and there'd be tons of tourists here during the summer, or even in the winter. But behind me, as soon as I turn around, is the Jewel nightclub. I'll try to go a little further back and not get hit in the road though. But this building is also for sale. It is active, as it is a nightclub, and there's live bands and stuff that play here. But it was once the location of I believe a hardware store or a plumbing and heating store. I'll have to dig up the picture. I have it somewhere. But anyway, I thought I'd show you this. And also, as you recall, here's the remnants of that building that was destroyed near Market Basket that I've been recording over the past 2 months or so. There's absolutely nothing left but the foundation. I'm not going to walk all the way up to it because there's really nothing to see but rubble right now. But all that's left now is the foundation of it. I hate that building, I really do. And also where Market Basket was, that was part of the train station as well. That whole parking lot was once it was part of the Union Street station that was here. I mean, the Union Station rather. Which is it's a shame that they torn that down. What idiots they were back then. Complete and utter morons. But anyway, I thought I'd show you this. And here was the location of the first horse-drawn trolley. That actually followed train tracks, and it was pulled by a horse, which is kind of neat. I never knew those even existed. It took me a minute to find where this location was. That's why I like doing this. It's kind of like going on a treasure hunt and trying to line up these pictures, but this is where the location was. It looks a little different, but I'm fairly certain this is where it is. It's on the corner of Stark and Elm Street. And here is a photo of the 50th anniversary of Manchester. I'm not sure if I get it lined up correctly, but I show you it was kind of like right in this location. I wasn't planning on walking up this road, but I've always liked Manchester Street because it just looks very old. So we'll take a little jaunt up this way really quick. It still has some of the old advertising mural on this building, the Morris paint and whatnot. That's where I would have bought my Benjamin Moore paint back in the day. I would have been here. I would have been coming here weekly. So that's kind of neat. There was a building located in between these two that got destroyed or burnt down at some point. But I've always loved this area. It's just really cool looking. It needs a little updating and some revamping as far as the businesses that are located here, but there's so much potential here. I'm surprised the city hasn't done anything with it yet. Although this one looks like it's in a process of getting something done to it. Those windows are absolutely hideous. Yucky, yucky. They went the cheap route. Again, in between these two buildings, as you can see, that they were attached at some point. So there must have been a fire. But it looks run down. It's like right off of Elm Street, so you'd think the city would want this fixed up, as it is kind of a neat looking area. But anyway, I thought I'd film this. I just want to film this to get my point across, but this is very old architecture here. This is the City Hall. See how beautiful that building is? Versus modern architecture, which is just blah. Same with this building. It's so ugly. There's no character to it. It's absolutely disgusting. I'll find a picture of what used to be here. I believe this is where the old Citizens Bank used to be, but I guarantee you there was once a beautiful building that used to stand here instead of this concrete, hideous looking thing. I wasn't planning on filming this building as well, but it's obviously a beautiful building and it's called the Beacon. So I will look it up and I'll find some old pictures of it. I'm trying to zoom in, my hands are all wet. But that's some beautiful architecture right there. Versus like that building, which is modern. That was probably built in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, and it's absolutely disgusting compared to this. It's one of the things I don't like about Manchester is they planned it out horribly over the years. They really have. But anyway, I have about 2 more destinations to get to, maybe 3. And this here is a neat picture. It was dated to 1904, and it was the location of the Brody Electric Company. And I believe another small business that was adjacent to it. But it's now this, which is a Hilton hotel. And I will never stay there as I cannot stand celebrities or making people rich. I'd rather stay at a sleazy motel than give Paris Hilton my money. And I hope you all think that way also. Do not give her any more money. Just stay out of there. But anyway, I think I have 2 more locations. I've been doing a little bit of walking today, that's for sure. But the city is small. I mean, realistically, I've probably walked about 2 miles so far, which isn't that much, really. But anyway, I'm gonna head up this road right here. And right here is a really neat location. This picture is dated to 1914. And it was once the location of the Joseph Baril fruit store. And it's said to be the oldest wooden structure that's considered a commercial property in the city of Manchester. It's estimated to be at least 160 years old. It looks a little different now, but at least the building still exists. So I thought I'd just show you that. There's a library across the street. I'm not going to walk there now, but I'll do some future video of the larger buildings of Manchester at some point. I'm on the corner of Auburn and Pine Street, and this area is really run down. It really is, and it shouldn't be. This should be one of the nicest areas in the city. And I'll explain to you why in a moment. But this is the Valley Street Cemetery, which has been here since the 1800s. It's got beautiful granite posts. These are the original iron fence posts that were also, you know, over 150 years old, and they're still in excellent shape. As they always say, the old metal is much better than the new stuff. It's crazy how good a shape this stuff actually is. They're missing the top pieces as people have stolen them over the years or just knocked them off. But there's also a family of wild turkeys that lives in this cemetery, which is really cool. There's a bunch of them, as you can see. But this cemetery was designed by the same person that designed Central Park, located in New York City. And this place used to be absolutely beautiful. This location here used to have a windy stream going through it. It used to be, and there used to be footbridges going over it, as well as a picnic area located right about there. And what happened during the urban renewal project during the 1960s, which is when I believe this happened, is they created a drain culvert, which is what this is. So the canal, or the stream that used to be here, is now underground, and it's now a drainage system for all the street water that runs through here. which is an absolute shame because this should still be here. And as I was just saying, this neighborhood is now run down. If this park was still meticulously taken care of and beautiful, this area would still be kept up and beautiful. This would also be a tourist area. But instead, the idiots from the 60s, the council members of the city and also the mayor, they had no hindsight. They were complete morons and they absolutely destroyed this place. Because ever since this happened, this whole cemetery has gone downhill. And I will take a quick walk through here. I did a previous walkthrough video, I don't know, a couple years ago, but I'll do another one. I just gotta find the entrance. Yeah, it's an absolute shame as to what has happened to this cemetery, as this was a very beautiful place. It still is in a way, but it's just not kept up. It's absolutely run down. Most of the graves here are from the mid 1800s to early 1900s. Like, all these crypts have been vandalized. That's why they're all boarded up. They used to have stained glass windows. It's really sad. It really is. This city is run by complete morons, and it has been for the past 60 or 70 years. Like, there was something here. It looked like there was a water fountain or something at some point, which is kind of neat. And there's a lot of homeless people that hang out in this place. You can see their footprints as they're going around. They hang out on the back side of this crypt. The back side of this crypt is also heavily graffitied. I'd walk over there, but I guarantee you there's probably somebody there shooting up drugs or something. A lot of the gravestones have been knocked over. A lot of them are broken. And as I was saying, if this cemetery was kept up, all these apartment buildings would be in pristine shape. It would be a beautiful area. As when you have a beautiful park like this, it attracts nice real estate because you can raise the rent and nicer people move in versus the type of people we have now. I'm not saying everybody that lives in this area is bad, but it would be a lot nicer if this park was kept up. Let's put it that way. And I was here, you know, not too long ago, about a year ago, and I don't remember this pillar being knocked over, so this is recent. So some jerk knocked this over. It wasn't the wind that did it, I can assure you that. That thing's very heavy. So some clown, fucking high on heroin or whatever, decided to get funny and destroy that for no reason. Some of these headstones are absolutely beautiful. They're very antiquated and they're just gorgeous. They really are. There's actually a cop in here right now, which is pretty sad that a police officer has to hang out in a cemetery because there's homeless junkies that are always in here raising hell. But I'm allowed to be here and I'm doing nothing wrong, so I am not worried. But we'll venture down here, and there's a lot of footpaths and whatnot that are still barely visible. Everything's overgrown. It's kind of sad. It really is. Oh, they actually mowed down a lot of the bushes because a lot of homeless people were camping out down here. Hello, officer. So I might actually be able to see this crypt now, which was once overgrown. I just got to get down here. It's a little tricky when it's snowing and slippery. Yeah, as you've seen from the pictures I showed, that this place was absolutely beautiful. It really was, and it's such a shame. Yeah, there's a couple of the underground crypts that you can now see that were once overgrown just a summer ago. Especially down in that corner right there. I recall there was like probably 8 tents down there. And they got kicked out, so that's a good thing. They don't belong in a cemetery. They really don't. They need to get off their ass, get off of drugs, get to work like everybody else, and find a place to live. It's not that hard. It really isn't. They're drug addicts because they chose to be. I don't care what anyone says. That's actually a headstone right there. There was probably a monument here that got destroyed at some point. Sorry if I'm stepping on your grave. I honestly don't think they care. I know I wouldn't, because I'd rather have somebody hanging around my grave than just being by myself all the time, right? It's very slick. Alright. I almost took a dive right there. Yeah, there's a lot of various headstones and whatnot on this hill that I couldn't even see last year. And I honestly didn't want to walk by here because it was all homeless people. But here you can see how the water builds up. This is where that stream used to be. So there was a natural stream that ran. It's all elevated if you go like a quarter mile that way. It's a pretty good sized hill, and there was a stream running down it. That actually ran through this park. And that's where the stream used to be, which is now just a drainage culvert. You can actually hear the water going through it. But it would still be cool if the actual canal with the bridges was still here. And it should be. As somebody made a horrible decision to get rid of it. Yeah, it's an actual brook that is now completely underground throughout the whole east side. And it leads down to the Merrimack River, obviously. But as you can see, there's various concrete paths that lead to different areas. This must have been such a beautiful place before it got destroyed and run down. What a shame. It's kind of funny that turkeys made their way down here, though. They get a pretty good habitat for being in the middle of the city, that's for sure. I'm sure a lot of people feed them also, so. And there's no hunting here, so they're very safe. This is a neat little area right here where this footpath is. Oh, these graves are so neat. Who is this? Looks like the Brugger or Brewster family. Really cool. And these were all good, hard-working people. You know, most of these people probably worked in the mills. And the larger headstones are obviously people that had more money. Like those are all knocked down. I think I'm going to come here next summer and just kind of fix some of these headstones. I don't think it's illegal to do so, so I think I'm just going to do it. As nobody else is doing it, so someone's going to do it. I know there's a volunteer group that comes here and they do some minor landscaping, but they don't do anything much, to be honest with you. And that's where it just was. So we'll head back down and around. This video is probably a little longer than I intended it to be, but hopefully I get your attention and you're not bored out of your mind. I love these little crypts. They're just they're creepy but cool looking. Like in the summer months, you can barely see this because the vines have leaves on it. So J.U. Parker from 1873. And he's got a little headstone down here that says Our Father on it. It's got oak leaves on it. It's kind of a beautiful headstone. Neat stuff. And those were all handmade. They didn't have machines back then. So like those oak leaves were all hand chiseled. They didn't have machines to cheat back then, that's for sure. They had skills. Real skills. And here's that crypt that overlooks this once beautiful area. Like I said, it's full of graffiti. There's usually homeless people out there, but I think the police officer scared them away. So whoever is buried in there or sitting in there was incredibly rich back in the day, for sure. Yeah, this is where that canal was with the bridges and whatnot. At least it's being utilized by some wild turkeys, so they have a good area to hang out with. That's pretty much the only good thing about this place at the moment. And there's those turkeys. And here's one of the original bridges where the canal would go underneath. It no longer has water going through it, obviously, but that's one of them. And the old wrought iron fence is still here also. There's not much left of it. I think that's about it, to be honest with you. You can see the various paths that used to go everywhere. Absolutely beautiful place. It still is. It really is. It just needs to be, you know, you need 20 guys to spend a month in here and just clean this place up, and it would be nice again. That's a pretty big flock of turkeys to be in the middle of a city, that's for sure. And we'll head up to the top, and I'll conclude this video. I'm just imagining all the thousands of people that have walked up and down these stairs over the years. Again, more vandalism. That's supposed to be somewhere. It's not supposed to be here. If I were to get buried and have a headstone, that's what mine would look like. Just a rock with my name etched onto it. The reason being is that will last forever. That will outlast any of these headstones. So in 2,000 years from now, somebody could come across my rock. Yay, it's starting to snow. My pants are actually soaked because it's been an on and off rain and freezing rain for the past hour or so. Could be a sign. I guess about 10 miles west from here, if you were in Ware or like New Boston, New Hampshire, they're getting hammered by snow right now. I think they're getting like over a foot. Not a ton of snow, but a foot of snow is still a good amount of snow to deal with. Like this one got vandalized. So disrespectful, it really is. What's the point in vandalizing a headstone? But anyway, I think I'm going to conclude this video, as I've been walking around for a solid 2 or 3 hours and I'm getting hungry. So I hope you enjoyed.